People are less satisfied at work than they've ever been. I feel like you hear things all the time from people, news articles, leaders who are complaining about people just checking out. People are not happy at work, trying to reclaim their lives, and that has led to the rise of things like quiet quitting. And there are questions about quiet quitting. Is it ethical? Is it not? Should you do it? Is it the end of your career or just a smart strategy? And today we're going to talk about all things quiet quitting. So I think we probably have to start with the general concept of quiet quitting. What is it exactly? The general idea is that quiet quitting is scaling back at work, doing only what you need to do and nothing more, and just doing essentially your job. You're just not going above and beyond or doing any additional work. And the reality is that it's an important topic. It's an important topic both professionally but also personally. And we should all give it some serious thought and consideration before we decide to participate or not participate in quiet quitting. So I want to make sure that we talk about, one, why it's a good thing, but then two, where people sometimes go wrong or take it too far. The idea of pushing back and trying to reclaim your sanity or your time makes perfect sense. I think that corporations have become more and more efficient. You can get work done much quicker than you could in years past. You have technology, you have automation, and yet somehow we're all still working the same hours that have always been worked, sometimes even more hours. Well, how can that be? And I think part of it is corporate greed of wanting to just continue to press on and produce more and more and more. And yet our pay is not going up that significantly. And sometimes our hours are even worse than they used to be. So it makes perfect sense that we would push back and that people would want to take back control of their lives and of their time. And so when you're not getting that extra pay, you don't want to work those extra hours. You don't want to put in that extra effort. You want to do what you're getting paid to do. And what could possibly be wrong with that? Not only that, you're not literally quitting. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. You're scaling back. So quiet quitting, maybe that's not even a good term. Maybe it's quietly doing your job or quietly scaling back to a reasonable amount of effort. It's really just trying to redefine back to an appropriate balance of what the employer-employee relationship should be. And I think it's also somewhat generational. I think younger generations are starting to see the burnout experienced by older generations, and that's pushing people even further towards this idea of quiet quitting, especially these younger generations. I think quiet quitting can be a great thing. In fact, I'm probably more pro quiet quitting today than I ever have been in the past. And I think that's because of my own experiences at work. There's definitely times where things get out of control and a balance does need to be restored. If you've watched any of my videos, you probably have gathered by now that I am a huge proponent of work-life balance. And when I say that, I mean that life means way more than work does. Work is a means to an end. You work to provide the life that you want to have, not the other way around. You don't live your life around work. And if you are living your life around work, there's probably a reason you're burnt out. You should work to live life, not live life to work. We need to set boundaries around our work. And quiet quitting is one way of doing that. Overworking is not a guarantee of growth. I've known plenty of people over the years, and I've had seasons myself where I've worked really hard to get ahead, and I didn't. I didn't get ahead. Those people didn't get the promotions or the jobs that they wanted, despite all the effort that they put in. And so I think that it is coming to a time where employers and employees are coming to a head. Another major topic tied to this is mental health. I think that we may now, as a culture, have more focus on mental health than we have in the past. The days of toughing it out and just grinding through have faded, and now people are worried about their health. Are they just working themselves into the grave or not? And I think that that has sparked people to want to change, right? Can we get our mental health back? And I think it makes sense. Work should not dictate your mental health. And the reality is that a lot of employers will happily run you into the ground. I've had so many times where I've had leaders, companies that you're very much like on a production line. You're just a cog in a machine, and they just keep pushing. They ask for things expecting immediate turnaround, as if you're just a robot who can press and click a bunch of buttons, and all your projects get done. And that's a really tough place to be. While I think quiet quitting is good, I do think that it leads to a very slippery slope that many of us have fallen into or are on our way to. And that is the way we approach quiet quitting. We shouldn't coast or check out to the detriment of our careers and our character. The reality is that a bad reputation is very hard to recover from. Reputations tend to stay a lot longer than you might like. And I think that some quiet quitting can go to the extent of damaging your reputation, damaging how people view you, even damaging how you view yourself. And I think that's where we really need to be careful and need to be strategic in the way that we decide to quiet quit. And I think we have to be careful when it comes to this moral landscape, because I think that even beyond just spirituality, even beyond just general morals and ethics, I think that we can start to fall apart mentally when we do this. There's something about being lazy and knowing you're being lazy that impacts a lot of things in your life. It impacts the way you value yourself mentally. If you know you're doing a bad job, it can have impacts on you. And you can start to think of yourself in a negative light when really you're doing it yourself. It's not that you're failing, you're intentionally failing, and it's just piling up in your brain. So I think we have to be careful of doing things like that. Additionally, I think whether we want to admit it or not, I think we have a responsibility to the people that we can impact. I know our companies might be bad. We might hate our jobs. But the reality is that you have other people who are depending on you. People who are needing you to step in so that they don't get used and abused by the company. And we have some responsibility as one of the people on the team to at least do what we can to try to help those people out so that they're not getting taken advantage of. And so I think part of our quiet quitting needs to be boundaries. Boundaries around our time and our effort. But boundaries don't mean intentional laziness. They mean setting up structures and guardrails to protect our time from a company that might abuse that time if we weren't more diligent in setting up boundaries. At the end of the day, I think the point of quiet quitting is just to do your job. So I think quiet quitting in name is actually a poor way of phrasing it. I think reclaiming your time, scaling back, doing your job, those are better terminologies than quiet quitting. And I think that you should quit the bad things. If your job is sucking the life out of you and it's eating up all of your time and life outside of work is starting to be impacted by life inside work, then I think you should absolutely scale back on those things that are bad, that are abusive, that are unnecessary. But I think we should stay diligent and work hard at the things that do matter. That way we can quiet quit in a sense while still being good employees, still being good team members, still holding up our moral and ethical standards, and, ultimately accomplish our goals without sacrificing our character. And at the end of the day, you can always change jobs. If quiet quitting the way I'm suggesting it isn't going to work because you're just in such an abusive job or under a terrible leader that it's just not possible, then try to change jobs, you know? And I think just know that your value, your worth is not tied up in the job. It's tied up in you. And so I think it's better to change jobs and scale back in a new job than it is to start losing sight of who you are and just, crossing ethical or moral lines in the way that you're quiet quitting. I think that's more damaging than just struggling through a difficult job where maybe you're not treated as good as you want to be. So at the end of the day, I think that quiet quitting is a good thing. I think that you should do it in a way that is right and appropriate. And I think that you should guard yourself. Do not fall into the trap of becoming resentful and negative, but rather do it as a way of reclaiming life and getting back to the way you want things to be. So if that means slowing down so that you can enjoy life, then yes, do it. If it's out of some hostility towards your company, then maybe check your motives, check your heart, and then do it when you feel like you're thinking about it the correct way. So I hope that helps. At the end of the day, it's obviously up to you all. I think that quiet quitting can be a good thing. I think we just need to do it the right way. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.